Hey, how's it going? This is Demetrius Midas. Welcome to my YouTube channel. We are talking about growing up spiritually, just simple topics, just trying to help people just in their everyday walk with God, helping them live the way they need to, just like I need to. So I think this is helpful to people. We're going to continue from last Monday I released Matthew 11:28, and we're going to be talking about verse 29 and 30 today. But in 28, it says, "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." So last week we were talking about finding rest in the presence of the Lord. And the key word to last week's lesson was the word come. And I use the example, if you have kids, you have a pet, you have a dog, something like that, you can yell all you want to come, but they have to make a choice to answer, to come to you. And they can choose not to. Isn't that true? So same with your kids, same with, yourself. You have a boss that wants you to do something. You have a wife, a spouse that wants you to do something. You have to choose to do those things, to answer that call. So same thing. We have to do the same thing with Jesus. We have to answer that call to get up in the morning, go to church, to get up in the morning, read our Bible, just the simple things like that. We have to make that decision. So I'm going to take off from there. So we're going to look at Matthew 28. We're going to pick up with verse 29. And it says this, it says, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lonely in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." So he says here, two things I want to point out first part of this is, take my yoke upon you and learn from me. The word take, again, tells me it's a decision. You ever heard the term take it or leave it? Same thing with this. We can choose to take his yoke upon us and learn from him, or we can choose not to. We can just let it lay there, take it or leave it. So again, it comes down to choices. In James, I believe it says in James, it says, "Draw nigh to God and I will draw nigh to you." Again, once we make our step, once we come to him, once we take up our cross, take up his yoke, then that's the decisions we make. And then God can come towards us and help us in those things. So he says, "Take here my yoke upon you and learn from me." So I have my first prop. It's actually not a prop. It's a picture of a prop. But this is a yoke. Those are actually two oxen. And the thing in the middle there is a yoke. So it's just this big, heavy wooden thing. If you can see those like metal bars coming down each around their neck, that's how they fastened it to the oxen. So this would be pretty heavy. One point about this would wear you down after a while. If you had to walk around with that big heavy load on you all day long, it would eventually wear you out. You would get tired. By the end of the day, you'd be like this, your head down, shoulders down, just beat up, exhausted, tired. Well, that's the same thing with this. When Jesus is saying, "Take my yoke upon him," he's saying, listen, most of the time we walk around with a yoke. And it can be something serious. It can be an addiction or things like that. But it can just be just simple stuff that we get caught up with, that we carry all day long. It's a load, a responsibility, a stressor that we carry all day long that wears us down, takes us away from the presence of God. See, these cows, they didn't have a choice here to just go do whatever they wanted to do. If they say, "Hey, you know what, I'm thirsty, I'm hungry," I really don't know what cows eat, but they want to go and eat something, they don't have a choice because they're yoked to the other guy. So the other guy has to choose and say, "Hey, I agree with you. Let's go get something to eat. Let's go get something to drink." Well, guys, we can be yoked to an addiction. So in other words, when those cigarettes are calling our name, we just give in and we go there because that's our partner. That's our yoke. And when the cigarettes call, we go. It can be caffeine. It can be food addiction. It can be, whatever that you're into. It can be something that just controls you and dominates you. And it can be just something that's, not necessarily a sin, but just a weight, something that you're just overdoing it. And we always have to check our lives and see if there's something that we overdo that we have to pull back from. I know years ago, I was heavy into lifting weights. I was about 35 pounds heavier than I am now. So it was quite a while ago. But I was doing 2 hours a day, six days a week. And that was something that God dealt with me to give up. And again, it wasn't, if I would have chose not to, it had nothing to do with heaven or hell, wasn't sin or anything like that. But it was something that I see now. I gave that up. In those 6 years, I really went after the presence of God because I had time. I started studying for 4 hours a day. And that was really my Bible school at that time because I didn't go to Bible school. even though I work full-time as a pastor. That was my Bible school. So I had to give that up. And I didn't realize at the time, I was just being obedient and saying, all right, Lord, I'm going to give this up for you. There's a huge sacrifice for me. I got away from it. Now I've picked it back up again, but not, of course, the same way as I was when I was in my early 20s. A little different now on my workouts. But again, that was just something that was a heavy yoke, and it dictated how my life went, where my hours went, or my time went. Well, I gave that up and got into the presence of God instead, and it developed some things on the inside, just built me up on the inside. So this is what this is talking about when it says a yoke. So it's something that we get yoked to. So in our life, we can be yoked to things, different things. They can be sin, they can be just a weight, just something that's not a sin, just taking our time away from the presence of God. It can be a spouse, you're just newly dating somebody, you're in a relationship. It can be even a new child. Your children take all your time. Well, I'm just so busy, I can't go to church, I can't pray, I can't read my Bible because my whole attention, my whole life revolves around the kids. Well, there's a season for that. I understand that when you have babies and things like that, but you also have to have time where you get in the presence of God, where you get refreshed, because if not, you'll end up like one of these guys. By the end of the day, you're just beat and you're wore out. And that's why Jesus knew that. That's why he talked about in verse 28, come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. He's trying to help us with giving us rest so that we're not wore out. So again, take my yoke as a choice. And he's saying, listen, my yoke is not like this. It's not going to wear you out. The things that I'm calling you to do, church, prayer, Bible reading, worship, your daily devotional type things, they're not going to wear you out. They're actually going to benefit you and strengthen you. You just don't see that. You think, oh no, I just need to sit by the TV and vegetate because my mind's burnt. I'm done. I'm spent. And you may feel like that. And you might have to do that for a little bit, but then you have to cut back and say, okay, I'm still going to go upstairs, spend my time with God, because I know that this is not where I'm going to find my strength. I need to get in the presence of God. So he says, take my yoke upon you. And then number two, the second thing he says, learn from me. Well, if you're using the word learn, that means he wants to teach us some things. So where do we get taught from the things of God? We get taught from the Bible. So the way we learn from him is we open up our Bible. So God, again, to me, the way I'm seeing this is I have to make a choice to get in the Word to learn from God. So he can be my teacher and he can instruct me and say, hey, this is what's going on in your life. This is how I can help you. I can bring peace into your life. I can bring joy into your life. Let me help you make some adjustments so I can learn from him. Does that make sense? So we have to make a choice to take up the Word of God and get built up into things of God, and that's going to change our life. Take from me, or learn from me. And then the third thing, he says, I am gentle and lonely in heart. You know what that means? I would think the opposite of that would be, I'm not mean and nasty. I'm not a yeller. I'm not going to yell at you. Because a lot of times we think, well, when we go to God, he's going to yell at us, he's mad at us, he's angry. And that's not what this is saying. He says, I am gentle and lowly in heart. So in other words, hey, I'm here. I'm just here to bless you. I'm here to help you. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not mad at you. I'm not going to tell you, hey, why didn't you come? Why didn't you get up early? Why didn't you go to church this past weekend? He's not going to do that. He is gentle and lowly in heart. So in other words, he's easy to get along with. He's not mean. He's not nasty. He's not mad at you. He actually loves you and cares about you and wants the best for you. And then he says, you will find rest for your souls. Well, again, this is just how I see things. When it says you will find rest, that tells me that I have to take an effort to get there. If I have to find my keys because I can't find them in the morning to go to work, I'm going to be going all over the place, ripping things apart, looking underneath everything, trying to track my steps. Where was I last night? Where was the last place I was? What did I do? Where did I go? I'm doing everything, tearing the whole house apart because I'm trying to find those keys, because it's very, very important to me. Well, guys, we have to realize that the rest of God is that important to us that we're going to do nothing else. Nothing else matters right now except finding rest. So I have to find that place, whether it's by myself in my attic, by myself in my bedroom, by myself in the basement, by myself out in the car, whatever you have to do. Go out for a walk by yourself to find rest, because he says, hey, listen, I have rest, but you have to take the effort to find it. He's not just going to just feed you these things just for free. He says, hey, listen, when you draw nigh to me, I'll draw close to you. He says, you will find rest. Again, we're talking about rest, where we're looking at Jesus told us that last time in verse 28, that we'll find rest. He says, you'll find rest for your souls. The word souls in the Greek is psyche. It's where we get our English word psychology. That's why psychology is spelled P-S-Y, because they took it straight from the Greek language of psyche, and they put it over there. So in other words, psychology is talking about the study of your mind, right? So psyche, or your soul, is talking about your mind, your will, and your emotions. So that's controlling everything. So he says, you'll find rest for your emotions. I'm crazy, I'm anxious, I'm stressed. He says, you'll find rest for your will. Well, I have some wills that are crazy. They're taking me down some wrong paths. Well, God wants to give you rest and peace in those wills that are controlling you, that you're strong-willed, controlled in these areas. He wants to give you rest in that. And then also in your mind, that your mind can actually shut down so you can go to sleep at night. So you're not thinking about everything, going crazy with all the thoughts and the stressors of everyday life. And then he goes on, the fifth thing, he says, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So he says this, he has one for us, but it's very easy. It's not strenuous. It's not going to wear us out at the end of the day. And it's also light. So guys, here's the key. In the morning, if you'll find time to spend with God, take upon him and choose to learn from him in the morning, your day will be a lot less stressful. You'll find rest for your mind. The meetings that you have, the things that you have to do, you'll find peace and rest. The kids, all the stuff that's going on at the house, you're working, then can have stuff at the house to do. You'll find rest if you'll come to him and take that time. So guys, hopefully I helped you. Today, this will be released on Monday. So again, I hope that this blesses you and you have a good day, and we will see you next week.